Amendment 4 in Florida. Is it all it's cracked up to be? Yes or no? You know, there's a big amount of questions, but we're going to talk about all the things bad, wrong, good, and what we're doing about it. Find out all this and more on Self-Evident Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Self-Evident Podcast. You got Massey, and I have a special guest here. You've seen her before. She's been on our show before. But we're here to talk about something very important. Usually, we're kind of the jokesters. We laugh. We talk a lot. We do all that stuff, me and Mikey. And Mike's actually producing this right now because he's just camera shy. He hates the camera. He may even pop on. We don't know. We don't know.
And hopefully, I have the power of the mic.
That's right. And hopefully, too, we will have another guest come on as well. We'll see how that works. But this is where the rubber meets the road in the states. We've always said this for a long time, and I've preached on this before, states' rights. What are the states able to do, and what are they not to do? So we're going to welcome special guest. She is the founder of We Impact the Nation, formerly Women Impacting the Nation. She is amazing. She's like a second mom to me. There's only 3 women I would do anything for. My wife, my mother, and this woman right here. Sue Trombino, everybody. Sue Trombino is here. She's amazing. I'm so glad to have her here. Sue, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me here. This is an awesome place up here.
It is.
Yeah.
We do our best. And if it wasn't for our wives, it wouldn't look this cool. I can promise you that. So, Sue, there's a big issue going on in Florida. Now, you brought up a lot of things before we even got on camera, so we'll get into those things in a minute. A big debate that has, in truth, divided our nation is abortion. Mm-hmm. We all know as Christians, like true, solid, biblical Christians, we know where we stand. Some people can have their exceptions in what they do. However, when you think about God creating life, God creates things. God is the one who determines when life begins or ends because He's the sovereign one. There's really no exception. And you have non-negotiables. Can you tell us all what those non-negotiables are?
Well, they're not mine. They're God's non-negotiables.
Whatever.
I always say vote biblically God's non-negotiables: life, marriage, and Israel.
Life, marriage, and Israel. So your first one is life. Marriage is another one, of course. You can't negotiate on marriage because marriage is an institution given to us by God. Mm-hmm. Israel being God's chosen and that we should defend and those kind of things, right? We're talking about life today, and here's the reason. Because President Trump and Kamala were on the debate stage as of this recording last night, so it'd be probably the night prior. But when they were on the stage, they were talking about how life, it should states' rights, not states' rights. Kamala says he's too extreme, and I'm thinking, I don't think we're extreme enough on life. I think we need to protect the babies, right? So we have a lot to talk about. But we have this issue going on in Florida that's been kind of a flip-flop issue for President Trump, but now he's on the side of, okay, I'm going to vote no for this. Amendment number 4. Mm-hmm. And I want you to explain what Amendment number 4 is. What is Amendment 4? What should Christians be watching out for? Why is this such an important amendment that we're talking about?
Well, it's called Do No Harm Florida. That's one of our groups that we're working with, but it's vote no on Amendment 4. And I'm going to read this to you because I think it's really important. And Amendment 4 is, let me start out here. On the ballot, it will say, Amendment to limit government interference with abortion.
Just listen to these words, by the way. Limit government interference while forcing people to say you can't stand up against a woman killing her child. Mm-hmm. Just saying, they're going to interfere somehow.
Well, that's the point. It's like, what the heck? So that really sounds good. And I've always said, if anything sounds good, that's a big red flag, right?
It's true.
So, and it is the most deceitful amendment that we will ever have. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to you here. It's a ballot summary, and I'm going to read it, and then we can talk about it each point.
Sure.
But right now, before I read what's on the ballot, right now we have a 6-week heart bill. All right? There's 3 exceptions to that heart bill. Is that, number 1, it's the mother's life is at risk, right? Then there's rape and incest if the mother does not want to have an abortion. I mean, if she wants to not
have
keep,
an abortion, yeah.
wants to have an abortion, and keep the child, that she could do that, and then also sex trafficking.
Okay.
That's what's on there right now. But this Amendment 4 is abortion on steroids. And so what it says here, the ballot summary says, no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion. So the no law is going to nullify everything that we have. Forget the 6-week, law. Forget anything like that. You have to, even like all the abortion clinics, right now they have to have everything, somebody come in, make sure that they're sterilized, make sure everything is copacetic, all that kind of stuff. Everything goes away from this moment on. If this passes, everything goes away.
Right. So anything previous, any protection for women as well.
Protection, women, children, everything goes away. Okay, so and you may kill that child, murder that child up to 9 months and through that. So it'll say no law. So that repeals all basically common sense laws. And then there says before viability.
Which
what
is
viability?
Exactly. That's an open-ended term. That's a term that's used very well. But what does viability actually mean?
Yes.
Now, I'll just state this. Nobody's viable if I stick you naked in Antarctica with no trees around. Are you viable? How long could you last? That's the same as a baby. Mm-hmm. They can't exist on their own. They need help, just like we all need help, right?
Exactly.
So viability, what's it mean?
There's no definition, and that will include painful late-term abortion through birth. So and viability is you can murder that child right through the birth canal. And people say, well, that's not going to happen. Well, yes, it will, because there is no definition. And there's a reason why they don't do that, is so that they can get away with doing whatever they want. Well, anyway, so here we go. So protecting the patient's health. All right, so I kind of wrote down some things here, because the patient's health, well, that means it can mean, because there's, again, no definition really, physical, emotional, and financial. It can be any of that. So if you're feeling all that, you can... that's what the patient's health is determined by the patient's healthcare provider.
Right.
Now, the healthcare provider, right now you have to have medical doctors. And healthcare provider, there's, again, no definition for healthcare provider.
Exactly.
Anybody that touches you and, that has to have a license, have to, have some sort of, just some sort of license to be able to do that. Like you're talking tattoo artists, you're talking nail techs, you're talking massage therapists. Any of those can be your healthcare provider. It is no longer no doctors now. So then the amendment does not change the legislator's constitutional authority to require, now I want you to hear this, notification to a parent or guardian before a minor has an abortion. Well, parental notification is not consent. So your 15-year-old daughter could be going into Planned Parenthood with her 19-year-old boyfriend, and as she's getting her abortion, then they will sign a piece of paper and said, here, you can now tell your parents, notify them, quote unquote, and that you just had an abortion.
Right. So they could just text their parents and say, hey,
text their parents,
I'm having an abortion, thanks. And
or the people, they have to have notification. So the Planned Parenthood will notify them. Well, when is that going to be? Before? They're not going to give them notification beforehand. It's during, after, whatever. So there is no, that's just insane.
Yeah, it's no protection
There's
for women
no
or the child.
protection, and then that's basically what it is. So we want to say no to allowing late-term abortion through birth, saying no to removing all protections for women and children. And then, of course, we say no to limiting parental rights, and that's what's going to happen. And you will be, they will eliminate parental rights for, if you're a parent, I want to know what my child's doing, especially, right. They, under 18 years old, then they want us to be responsible. So we're saying, no, you can't do that. Well, you have to have a note, to take a aspirin.
You got to get a parental's consent just to get a tattoo.
I'm sure you would, but
yeah.
So a tattoo, you have to, for even pills, or not pills, but aspirin.
Yep.
But you don't have to murder a child.
Right. You can have a flat-on surgery without parental consent to agree to it. Mm-hmm. But you dare not have a beer before you're 21, because God forbid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like it's the hypocrisy of both laws.
Well, the
right?
worst thing about this, though, too, is that there is no these doctors or anybody else. We can't go back and hold them accountable. And so there is. I mean, they can do whatever they want, and now I don't have any recourse to hold them accountable for what they did to my 15-year-old. It is just that's null and void. So they can kind of do whatever they want, whenever they want it. And I think we were talking earlier that I was just reading about another constitutional amendment, and this will blow you away. Where is it here? This was 22 years ago. And
I want you guys to hear this. This is hypocrisy to its greatest degree.
This is insane. So the technical title was, this is 22 years ago now, the technical title was Limiting Cruel and Inhumane Confinement of Pigs During Pregnancy. And it was called by the media the Pregnancy Pig Amendment. It was actually, it was a constitutional amendment. Now, back then, it was a 50% threshold, whereas now we have 60%. But at 50% threshold, and over 50% of Floridians voted to protect the pigs. But we started out, before this amendment even came to fruition, we had the Florida Human Life Amendment petition to get this on the ballot, and so did Planned Parenthood. And this is what's sad to me. It's actually appalling to me, actually. You have Soros spending $50 million plus to bring into Florida, paying $50 an hour to get people from out of state to come in every gas station, Costco, whatever it was, to get signatures. And we had the same opportunity. You have to get 800 and something petitions. You really say 1 million because they're going to throw out some of them. Some of the petitions because of signatures or whatever, some aren't right. Soros and his team in Planned Parenthood, they reached their 1 million signatures.
Probably by deceiving most people, I'm sure.
Well, exactly, because it was, what did we say here? The government. You don't want the government in your life, do you? Well, who wants the government in my life? I mean, we even had Debbie, one of our board members. There were 2 tables, and she sees people saying, "Oh, you don't want government in there," and she's like, "That's not true. That's not even factual." But they don't care. They lie. And I just pray that the Christians especially would really pray for discernment and wisdom, because they're being so bamboozled by the words that sound good, or they don't like a particular party or a particular person or whatever, and they just go into the emotion instead of facts. And I just lost my train of thought. But anyway, the point is that here we are. Get me back on track here, Mass. I was telling about the
yes, you're basically talking about like the way that Soros had it funded.
Oh,
where
yes,
Christians.
thank you. Yes, thank you. So the Florida Human Life Amendment petition. So you would think that you have all these churches. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of churches in Florida, and you would think that we're supposed to be God's non-negotiables: life, marriage, Israel, but life. You would think that you would just sign a petition that says, yes, we believe that. That we want to be able to vote that life is important to the Lord. God says, choose life. And life is, and even our Constitution says, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, you can't have liberty or pursuit of happiness without life.
That's right.
So life is God's heart. That's, life, he chose life. Now, but here we go. And the churches, we barely got 220,000 signed petitions out of all the churches and the Christians in Florida. So therefore, it went to the Supreme Court of Florida, who's supposed to be the deciding
factor, basically.
Well, they're supposed to be the most conservative court in the land, right? And we had attorneys say, "Oh, don't worry about it. They're gonna vote on our side and everything else." Well, guess what? There was 3 women that voted with our side, and 4 men. They're supposed to be conservative. Voted to put the language that we have in this ballot right now. That's what's on. They voted to go on the side of Soros. Now, we're supposed to be the most conservative. That's why I really don't care about, all these lawyers and attorneys and what do you call them? Judges, all that. No. We the people. It's
right.
not about the courts. But here the courts, look what they did. Everybody said, oh, no, the courts are going to rule in our favor. And they were wrong.
100.
And now we have this mess because of the language. And the language is so deceptive.
Yep.
And yet the Christian they chose not to step up to the plate. And I don't know. I mean, I sometimes think maybe it's because, well, I don't even want to get into it because then I'll probably get in trouble. But, or I can get in trouble here, right?
No. There's no trouble here. Mark my
I like
words.
to stir the pot here, and I'm like, okay, I'm on.
But this actually brings up a greater issue, right? Like, so this amendment is literally telling parents, because this will change Florida's constitution. An amendment literally does that. It changes the constitution. That's kind of how the law is going forward, unless we repeal it, which is possible.
If you do another, but you see, once this passes, this is what people don't understand. Once this passes, you cannot petition the governor. You cannot petition your legislators to do that. It has to be another amendment.
Right.
And here they're making it harder and harder. So here it's up to 60%. You don't think that these people are going to make it up to 70%, especially the rhinos and all the people that aren't on board with this. They're not supposedly real Christians. They're not on board with this. They're going to continue to raise the bar and make it more difficult for us to pass anything like this. So once this passes, you can forget it. You will have we will be the number one destination, site or, place for abortion. And actually Florida has been the number one red state in abortion. And there's more abortions now, even with Roe versus Wade. And people say, oh no, that's not true. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Because
so what is Governor DeSantis' position on all this? Do you know?
Well, I know that he came out with he just a week ago or so that he was very much in favor. I mean, he's against Amendment 4, so he's really pushing that. So I'm assuming that he's vote no on Amendment 4. This is he said it. He was very clear that he's against the.
Yeah.
And I think people are very misled. Just like you mentioned Trump. I think he was, we can get into that another time or whatever about how he stands with life or whatever. But this one, I think he really, I don't know who got to him, but it was good. He didn't understand. I don't know if he didn't understand how bad it was that this was up through 9 months. And that's why the next day he came out and said, oh no, this is too extreme.
Right.
So I'm glad he did that. So, good, bad, or indifferent, at least he's saying no on Amendment 4. And that's a start. And but DeSantis, he's no on Amendment 4. But now we have to get all of our other, from Kat Kamik and Scott and Rubio and all the other legislators on the record telling their their constituents, how to vote no on Amendment 4.
This actually brings up something really, really crazy, because wherever we travel, they're like, oh my gosh, you live in Florida. Must be so awesome to live there in Liberty. And it's like, we're actually two people away from being a completely blue state.
We are not as red as people think. And everybody goes, oh, yeah. And so, when I travel, it's like, even I was in South Carolina, everybody's like, Sue, what do you think? I'm going, I don't know if you want to know what I think. And I said, no, we're not as red as everybody thinks, because there's so much behind the scenes, with all of this legislative stuff. And we have, but it's because we, the people, are not stepping up to the plate. And one statistic I think I was telling you earlier is that 58%, and I want you all to hear me. I don't know where I'm supposed to look
right
here.
There.
Right there? Oh, hi, I'm looking over here. But anyway, 58% of Floridians say, as of today, that they're going to vote yes on Amendment 4. But this is the kicker. 76% of those people say they're Christians. How can you possibly? I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. I don't really care. I'm going to be late 60s, and it's I'm just done. I'm done. Because Lord isn't going to say well said, well thought, or well intentioned, Sue or Massey or Mike. He's only going to say well done. But let me tell you something. See, I even lost my train of thought. See, I'm getting older. So what was I saying?
You were saying to those people who are voting, 70% of those people being Christians.
But I get so infuriated with this. You cannot say that you're a Christian and not vote, for life, marriage, Israel. Those are non-negotiables. I'm sorry. That's, God's heart is life. And so we have to vote. And yet you're going to vote for a platform of death. This is death. This is murder. And I think we were talking earlier about if, my daughter-in-law is pregnant again, which we're so excited. But she was even saying that. She goes, if I got killed in a car accident, that person would go to jail for 2 murders because that baby is inside. Everybody says, well, my body, my choice. Well, first of all, yes, it's, you do have a choice.
Yeah.
You have a big choice to give life or to take away life. And that's, and so here, but now if you kill somebody in a car, obviously, you didn't mean to do that, obviously, but you still murdered 2 people.
Right.
Because that baby is a different DNA,
right.
different fingerprints, different everything. You're just housing that child. It's a totally different DNA, and it's a baby.
Right. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about Amendment 4, and thank you for your responses, there's several reasons. One, it's taking away the rights of the parent, for sure. It's allowing government to determine when life begins or ends. And I disagree with most Republicans on this. They think that abortion is a states' rights issue. I don't agree with that. No state, read the Constitution. You can't deprive life, liberty, or property without due process of law. A baby has no due process. So you can't put a baby on trial to live or die. That's what that means. It doesn't mean the due process is we get to determine if we can have an abortion or not. So when we look at states, when we look at the federal government, nowhere was the Constitution given any authority, state constitutions or the federal government, to determine on life itself when it begins or when it ends. So if the government cannot determine, can we determine? Therefore, we back out of this. You're going to have a baby, you're going to have a baby. You cannot do that. Now, I hear it all the time. What about the rape and incest? Listen, I get all that, but why are we punishing the baby instead of the rapist? Mm-hmm. Where's the talk of being more harsh on the rapist? I mean, if we talked about castration and all that stuff, I tell you what, dude, if we were doing that kind of stuff, why is it that we're more willing to go after someone who doesn't pay their taxes than we are for someone physically violating a woman, or vice versa, right? Because that happens. Why is it that we're so willing to hear arguments and even get angry at someone using a word that offends somebody? We'll throw them in jail for using an offensive word. But shoot, when it comes to rape, and we don't really talk about more severe punishment for those who do that. Mm-hmm. But we're willing to kill the fruit of that thing. We're willing to kill a baby. We're willing to kill a life for that. And I think this is where it's at. I don't agree that abortion is a states' rights issue. It is a no issue. Mm-hmm. Like, states cannot determine when life begins or ends. Us as humans cannot determine when life begins or ends. It's a fundamental, unalienable right from God that life is, because we're all created, okay? So which means connotates that there's conception, there's a life beginning, right? So this issue it goes way beyond just saying, should Florida allow abortions? It's actually deeper than that. Mm-hmm. The state is now playing God. The state is now playing religion. The state has become a religion. Mm-hmm. The state has become divine. Mm-hmm. It's become where it does everything for us now. It provides for us. Mm-hmm. It can determine when life begins or ends. They can give away money when they want to. They can now inculcate marriage. So, like, the state has now become a divine authority. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what's happening. We've now allowed the state they teach our kids now. They tell us how to run our homes now. You can't discipline your kids, so we'll call CPS. The state literally has become religion. People now go to the state, including Republicans, will say that the states need to go do something about this instead of us, we the people, like you always say this. It's we the people, it's we the people, it's we the people. That's what's happened when the church abdicated the full authority of God. Mm-hmm. God determines everything I just said, how we provide for our neighbor, how we take care of our children, what they should be taught, not taught, when life begins. All that stuff is left to us and God, all of that. And so that's where this issue becomes so hot button for me. Can I ask you a question? What makes this abortion issue so hot for you? Why is it that you feel the need? Because most Christians won't. They're like, I'm pro-life, but I'll do it, kind of like the Nicodemus thing, come to him at night, Why is this such a hot button?
Well, it's again, I'm always talk about God's non-negotiables, and we talk we always talk about truth and facts,
right? Not
emotion, not conjecture, and not even my opinion, because we're all entitled to our opinion. We're just not entitled to our own facts, right? So, but what does God say? I've said that for 19 years. What does God say? And if God says this, then I want to be on the right side of God.
Right.
And I mean, it's interesting when you say, you were talking about, people are so upset right now about what's going on, but yet they choose not to get involved in the politics.
Sure.
Therefore, by you not voting, by you not doing your due diligence, by you not getting involved, because we're really the owners of this business, and America's a business basically, right? So we're the owners of that, but we're letting the employees do whatever they want to do, and then we're saying, oh yeah, that's okay. Well, it's not okay because now they're dictating to us what we can and can't do, and then who died and made you king?
That's it.
Who died and made you? No. So obviously our Constitution. You know this better than anybody, Mass. That our Constitution, everything comes from God, right? So whether you believe in God or not, it's really irrelevant.
It is really irrelevant.
It is.
You have the freedom to believe that he doesn't exist.
Exactly. And so, but like when you're talking about incest or rape, and I'm talking to the Christian, when they say, well, what about incest or rape? I said, well, first of all, the percentage of that is so minute, but that's what they always go to. And it's either you've had an abortion, somebody that did, or your family did, and you don't want to be shamed because the church doesn't talk about that. Instead of saying we can God forgives, and there's healing, and there's forgiveness and all of that. We don't talk about that, so we put people into a corner, which Satan really wants to keep us in that corner. But with incest or rape, let me talk to the Christian. The sixth commandment says, "Thou shalt not murder." Period. And so, therefore, if you choose to give that child up to murder that child,
right?
Number one, you've also usurped commandment number one, because God's the one that says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." You just made yourself God.
That's what I'm saying,
right? And that's totally
that's what
agree.
the state has become,
and they've become God. And then now we're trying to, and now we're afraid to stand for what is right and true and noble. And so when you ask me why is it my hot button?
What is the passion behind, not just because God said, there's obviously something. I believe God puts things in us, and we have passions. I have passion that kids and people are being lied to about their own government, that they're supposed to be underfoot of government. God didn't create that for us. Even in monarchy times, we're not just to obey the king when he's being stupid and destructive. We're supposed to oppose it too, according to Romans 13. And I know Christians disagree with that. They've never proven it to me, but I have a real disdain for that. I also have a disdain for churches lying to their congregants, not allowing men to be men, not allowing the family to grow, not telling the truth, or sitting the sidelines, pastors who won't hit real issues. I have a real disdain for that. I'm not angry with them. I just pray that our passion and that the fruit would show them that they can do it too. They can jump in the fight. So this is a hot button for you. I know Pastor Jan Mozingo at Revive Church. She's going to come on as well to kind of film out a little piece of this. But just these passions, because they're not just violating human. They're literally
violating God's heart.
I was going to say, we're going to answer for this.
Yes, and you have a disdain for all that, because we're supposed to have disdain for what breaks God's heart.
Amen.
And so it breaks God's heart. I have an 8-month-old grandbaby. And I've been,
which you are like insane. You drive from North Carolina to come down here. Like, it matters to you about this little child, your grandchild.
Well, yeah, I watch her. Right now I've watched her 5 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
But like you're so willing to go so far beyond just to take care of that child.
Well,
right?
But it's a legacy.
It is a legacy. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm not saying you're making any more of a sacrifice than anyone else's.
Yeah.
I'm saying what you do is so incredible, because I think it shows how much care you do really have. So you're not just saying it, you're actually practicing it. You're not just saying, well, I'll just let her get taken care of by someone else. No, you're actually willing to come and be a part of that child's life and raise them, like you said, legacy. And it also, your son is a beneficiary. He sees mom practicing it out again, not just how you raise your son, because you have one son, but now he gets to see it all over again in the granddaughter, right?
Yes.
That's pretty stinking important. So you're not just saying the stuff to say the stuff. This is actually a part of your life. You love life.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's like, what are we living here for? What are we called to do? Right? And I think I think we've just forgotten about, I mean, I'm just passionate about a lot of things, but most of it about God. What does God say? It started at 19 years ago. Well, what does God say about that? What does God say about this? And then, obviously you're not going to jump into the fray for everything, but God puts stuff on your, for us, it's the Constitution. I've lived overseas, that, Mass, overseas half of my life. And I've seen how we're about to lose this republic. We are a republic. We're not a democracy.
Right.
But I see how we're about to lose that. And what did I do? You think about the Bonhoeffers and the ones that have stood.
Yep.
I mean, from Paul to, all of our disciples. And what did they do? What is my son or what is my granddaughter? And she's pregnant again, so we're going to have 2 granddaughters. But what are they going to say about Safta? They call me Safta, which means grandma in Hebrew. But what are they going to say about me? Did you do something? I mean, I look at back what my dad did or my grandparents did. And what did they do to save this country?
Right.
What did they do? And what is our life worth? And so when I talk around the country a lot, I say, what is your legacy going to be? We just kind of sit around and just do whatever. I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. Why is my passion life? It's really a God. God just put it on my heart. I love life. I love truth. And this is so demonic and evil.
Yeah.
It's murder. It's killing. God says go out and multiply.
Right.
Amen. And so you multiply.
Be fruitful and do that.
And be fruitful and do, yes. So
we're not supposed to take away life. We're supposed to be fruitful and multiply. So we're actually going to put this website up at the end of this because I really want to interview Pastor Jan as well on this. So we're going to kind of splice them together. But donotharmflorida.org.
Yeah,
donotharmflorida.org. We'll put
do no harm.
Do no harm. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
do no harm. Sorry.
FL.
Let me redo that because you'll edit this, right?
Do no harm. FL.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Sorry. We're going to put this website up on the screen here. DoNoHarmFlorida.org. DoNoHarmFL.org. DoNoHarmFL.org. This is just some practical ways you can actually share this with your neighbors. I know it's conversations. People aren't good with confronting. I love it. I love talking about hard issues. It's not easy, but I love it because I kind of like a good debate. I like a good fight. But we have some issues that we got to address here, especially in the state of Florida. This is one of them. And dude, there's so many issues. You just said it. There's so many issues to fight on this front. There's sex trafficking, human trafficking, all these other things. So yes, if you're involved in those things, I commend you. I want to know about it as well so we can interview you too. And what can we do to stop those things? Tim Tebow just put a thing up in Florida for I think it's Florida, the national legislature, trying to pass a bill to protect kids, that are trafficked. Mm-hmm. That's amazing stuff. You know what I mean? This for us though is as a Christian, as a pastor, as an evangelist, I cannot stand for this. We want you to know about it, to be able to share this with your friends.
I just want to just say here, I'm just going to read down a couple of things that it says here that what this means, this vote no on Florida amendment, abortion amendment. No parental consent, no informed consent, no reflection or waiting period, no health or safety regulations, no qualification requirements for abortionists or abortion clinics. So think about that one. They can do whatever they want, whenever, and nobody's held accountable.
Right.
No limit on late-term abortions. No limit on brutal dismemberment abortions. No limit on aborting babies to harvest their organs. So, in other words, you can do, again, whatever you want, whenever you want it, and there will not be held accountable.
Yeah, there won't be any repercussion.
So you can pull, the arms, the legs off of a little baby. I mean, when I look at my grandbaby, I weep. And I tell my son and my daughter-in-law, I go, thank you for the privilege of being able to watch her. I thank you for letting me watch her. Because it's just, but, no matter how you feel out there about this issue, you cannot allow this to happen. This has got to be vote no on Amendment 4. We are going to be held so accountable. And God, I believe, Massey, that God will take his hand off of Florida if we let this pass.
100%.
Especially in the Christian community.
Agreed.
Shame on any Christian that votes yes on this. There is no excuse. And in Proverbs it says, stop using excuses. Your excuses are useless.
Right.
End of story. There is no, because we're going to be held accountable. And it also, it also really ruins the rest of our society. I mean, the ripple effect, it just goes beyond.
It does.
You know, it goes beyond incomprehension.
100%.
You know, and we don't see that.
Right. So again, we're going to put this up here, and then when we have Pastor Jan, we're going to round it all out as well. But do no harm, FL.org. Vote no on Amendment 4. From us to you, this is a huge issue. This is something we cannot give the government authority over, and we need to stand up now. If it's one issue that I would ever say, because I hear this all the time, this election's the most important election in history. No, look, this amendment is very important. You know me, I'm not a scare tactic guy, but this is truly demonic that they're leading children and telling them you don't even need your parents. Do you realize how totalitarian and Marxist that is? That we don't need our parents anymore to co-sign on what we do? This is insane. Again, the state is becoming divine, and we need to stop that. So again, vote no on 4. Thank you, Sue, again for joining us. We love having you here. You're amazing. You rock. And what's your website so they can know?
Right now, it's womenimpactingthenation.org. It will soon be weimpactthenation.org. But go to womenimpactingthenation.org and follow us. We're going to be doing some amazing things around this country.
That's right. Guys, you don't want to miss it. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you very soon. All right, so you guys just heard from Sue Trombino, founder of Women Impacting the Nation, soon to be We Impact the Nation. So you guys want to watch out for that. She just had a wonderful kind of thing to say about Amendment 4, but this is actually more special for me. I'm honored because we have Pastor Jan Mozingo with us. Her husband, Pastor Todd, is at Revive Church, where I was the associate there, still do ministry there, but she's actually the one really pushing this to not only just the congregation that we have, but pastors all over the state as best she can, and there's many others doing it. But this is an important issue, and we kind of covered this with Sue, that this isn't just something we got to say a yes or no and we just kind of let it go. This is a foundational, pivotal thing that God established as life. And so I'm just honored to have you on with us. Thanks so much for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. No problem. I'm going to ask you a few questions because I want to hear from your perspective. We heard from Sue, who's more of a patriot. She's a Christian. She's definitely a pusher, been a bastion of freedom and liberty for a long time. However, like coming from a pastor's perspective, leading congregations is tricky. I was in that seat, being the associate there, and helping lead that is tricky because what we say they follow typically, you know. And so, why was this issue such a passion for you, the Amendment 4? What is it about this issue that really drove you to say, I need to fight for this?
Well, to me, it's just natural as a believer and a Bible-believing Christian. And I think you've probably heard me mention before that back in the 70s, I first heard Francis Schaeffer do a series called How Then Should We Live?
Yeah.
I was extremely interested as a young teenager, and it impacted me. And then moving to Fort Lauderdale, being a part of Dr. D. James Kennedy's church a bit, Coral Ridge Presbyterian, and getting educated on this, I always wondered why the mainline church, most of the church, does not respond and get involved, especially when this is a biblical issue.
That's exactly right.
This is a biblical issue. This is life, and this is blood.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand that churches wouldn't be grabbing this and running with it and educating their people.
But I think, coming from being pastors, and we'll get into the amendment and what we see and what your hangups are and what we need to watch out for. But coming from a pastor side, you understand, I think you hear this a lot from pastors. I'm sorry, not even pastors, because I don't think they're manly enough to admit it in a lot of ways, but their congregants will say, well, my pastor won't touch that with a 10-foot pole because it's politics. You know, and they have their 501s and they kind of hide behind the wine press, if you will. They won't step out like Gideon did, right? Mm-hmm. What say you to that? Because there's that 501 stuff. And I really want you to get honest here. Just say what you want to say, because this is a podcast. So what do you say to that? There's a lot of men who won't step because they're afraid of politics. They're afraid of the backlash.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a few hours, actually.
Let's go.
But no, I don't know, Massey. It's the $50 million question. I mean, we must be involved in government. It's all throughout the Bible. And you're right, they're hiding behind something. And they're misinformed. I even sent that thing to you last night that somebody had sent me about churches being involved. And it kind of had some negatives, like they shouldn't. But they don't understand. They don't know that they can be.
That's
and
right.
they should be. We are fully allowed to have a voice just like anybody else. And I can basically speak anything from the pulpit, and I do, and I will. So all I can do at this point is encourage others to do the same.
That's right. And what she's saying is, according to the 501c3 documents, the church itself cannot say Revive Church or whatever church endorses X candidate. She is Pastor Mozingo, Todd Mozingo, myself. We can say, look, this is what we're doing. And I'm encouraging you to do that too. So there's all these misnomers that are happening with churches. And I think there's two things. You got to have grace with them because they don't understand what we understand in truth. But the second thing is encourage them to stand out. I think if they heard more from their congregation saying, hey, we need to step out on this, I think the pastor would be more inclined to do that. It would push them to do that because our people are pretty involved, I would say.
Yes, our people are. So I really appreciate that. I would encourage them to get their pastors to be involved because, like you said, they're not informed. And I honestly believe probably the reason they don't is they believe there would be some kind of a split or division in their congregation. There are women that have had abortions and they maybe carry shame or guilt. But the thing is, at Revive, we have programs to heal that. We have ongoing around the year-round class called Sexual Healing. For stuff like this, there's places like CareNet that has healing. So we don't have to carry any guilt or shame. For the past is the past, but we move forward and we make righteous decisions.
That's right.
If we're not preaching the word of God because we're afraid of losing someone or what they might say, I'm sorry, but shame on us.
That's right. We're no longer focusing on the word of God at this point. We're trying to retain people, and that's not what the gospel's for. The gospel is offensive by nature. So when you stand for the truth of Christ, you're going to offend people. And sometimes that weeding out of those who don't want to be is actually better for the church at large because then people know where you stand. They know they're going to preach the unadulterated word, right? So let's get into this amendment.
Okay.
Sue kind of had her things, and I want you to, what is it about this specific amendment that is wrong? Because I think a lot of people don't start from ground zero. They just hear, we're just banning abortions and, and all they're doing. The way they labeled this bill is so cheesy. And of course, if anybody hears it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm for government staying out of my business. What is it about this that is extreme? And what could you say about it that's like, whoa?
When I thought about it, I came up with probably at least 15 things. So I'll just try to, I have a few of them written down. First of all, this is life.
Right.
This would literally, it's two sentences. Two very vague sentences that would erase probably about 7 pages of our Constitution of detailed what we have outlined. What we have outlined is right now really good. This would literally make Roe v. Wade like a cakewalk. This would way override Roe v. Wade. So we would be known as the forefront abortion state, basically. We really need to look at what is causing this. Go back to the root. Why are people getting pregnant if they don't want to be pregnant?
Right.
Why are we having all these unwanted pregnancies? Because we have to admit that this is a life. During COVID, they said, follow the science, follow the science. Well, let's follow the science.
That's right.
This is a life. So really, we have to re-educate people. I can't imagine that kids are getting through high school not seeing that this is a life. So what are we teaching them? We need to teach them this is a life. Maybe we need to teach them about abstinence. Maybe we need to teach them about birth control and ways that why would we go through all the trouble of getting pregnant and then discarding this baby?
That's right.
And kids are taking pills these days and things and having abortions in the toilet and the trauma. And
that's the long-term
thing.
The
trauma. That's another whole thing I think that we don't even address that these women carry for the rest of their life. With this class that we have and the women that we work with, we do a lot of inner healing. They're 60, 70, 80 years old, and this is the issue they've carried their whole life. And when they get relief from that, there's such freedom. So we can train them on the front end, and so they don't have to do this and then carry all that the rest of their life.
Shame and the baggage, yeah.
Shame, okay? So that's one thing. Let's fix the problem. This is life, and this is blood. This is what's in the Bible, the Word of God. So we're doing wrong to do this. We're following the world to do this. Another thing, Massey, this is not something being brought by the state of Florida. This is not the will of the people of Florida. This was, I think it was, I've got it written down
George
here.
Soros?
Yeah, it was, I've got it down here. It's like $60 million in out-of-state money come in here. They came and did this to 7 states after Roe v. Wade was overturned, thank God, because it never should have been in place. That was the greatest thing, and then each state could deal with it. Well, now they're going back with all this money from Planned Parenthood, George Soros, and the leftist institutions, pouring money into all these states to get this flipped. So they've done, I believe, 7 states so far, and they're grieved when they realize what they've done. Ohio, I think, was the last big one. So they're getting ready to do it in Florida. They funded to bring people from out of state to get our signatures to put this on the ballot. So
they're finding out now some of them signatures are forgeries.
That too.
So like there's a ton of them.
So Ashley Moody, the Attorney General, she saw all this and how these 2 vague sentences to replace our entire Florida Constitution, which would never be flipped back in our lifetime, she brought it up to this state. And do you know that the 3 female judges supported her and the 4 males voted against her?
Wow. So the Florida Supreme Court voted against it because of these 4 male judges.
Right.
Got it.
Right. But the women saw this is not good because women know women. Who are these men making this decision for us? Who is this out-of-state people? These leftist organizations are making these decisions for us. That is not okay. This does not represent Florida. We don't want to be known as the abortion capital of the world.
No.
I mean,
we're pretty good on tourism. Leave it at that. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is we don't realize that in the long run, how many of these abortions are we going to end up paying for?
That's right.
We,
the taxpayer.
We, the taxpayer, will end up paying for a lot of them from here and from out of state.
That's right.
So when it's easy to get an abortion with all the trafficking and everything else, it's just going to increase. The numbers last year of abortions in Florida were over 84,000 abortions. 84,000 abortions.
If this gets passed, we could easily see that triple.
Easily.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going up every year.
You were passionate about this one thing, too, about the bill. I'm a parent. If my son got a girl pregnant, God forbid, that's not what we're praying for, but I would want to know about it. I would want to know, like, hey, let's not kill the baby. Let's do something. Let's do everything we can to help you guys. Bad move, buddy. You know better than that. You know, we wait till marriage. But in that instance, you have 2 daughters.
Right.
So this bill actually takes away parental rights.
Right. That's a huge...
In entirety, yeah.
Yeah, it does. That's a huge thing. You can't even get an aspirin for your kid at school these days, but this can be performed without parents' consent. What you'll do is you'll get a text 48 hours later that says, oh, by the way, your 12-year-old had an abortion.
So it's just they would inform parents but not have...
They're supposed to inform parents after the fact, but there's no...
consent,
right. Permission, consent beforehand, because you would want to know so you can counsel your child and be there for them. What if your child is 11 or 12, 14? I mean, these are children. It's just not okay.
Right.
It's the only surgery that would be allowed without parents' consent.
Right. Can't even get a tattoo.
Even get a tattoo.
Right. So there's plenty of issues with this, but I'm kind of hearing it from your perspective. You also brought up something that was really interesting from your perspective. It wasn't just that. It wasn't just the money, but it was the you were talking about like kind of the long-term effect of Florida. How could we be this red state that everybody says? We flipped a lot of seats in our county as far as like school boards.
Yes.
We did all these things that were like, hey, good stuff, right? We were championing and zeroing, and Martin County flipped a lot of seats, which is awesome. So we're seeing a more right move, a shift back to the Constitution, a shift back to parental rights. And then this pops up.
Right.
So what that looked like long-term for Florida, you know, like that you kind of brought that up yesterday. I kind of want you to expand on that. What does that look like to the country that we're considered a red state where DeSantis won overwhelmingly as governor, right? And then Miami flipped for him, which is crazy. And then we just won a bunch of seats in our local counties, and yet this bill's coming up and saying, let's just kill your babies.
And that's why I want to know how this is happening. I'm telling you, it's out-of-state money and out-of-state people doing it. It's coming in like the mafia. It's like a mob coming in. So it's not okay. We're taking care of our local populations and you know, like you said, getting people in place in local government. And then out-of-state people are coming in.
Right.
And once they get Florida, we're like a pivot state. Katie bar the door. It's going to be all 50 states. I mean, because they have the money to do it. So we have to, you know, we have to stop this thuggery. And that's one thing Ashley was, you know, going after, because she said this can't just go on the ballot like this. It's not okay. There's not enough verbiage. It's not clear. But just the fact that we can't be doing this. And there's a few other amendments that are being added like that as well.
I
that
know.
Are very, yeah,
There's like ramming it down our throat right now. And people don't know about it.
Right. Yeah. And so to me, I mean, it's all kind of in line with our big national government as well, because we know we've got two sides. We've got one side that'll say, hey, state, you can make your own decisions. And then we have over here, we're going to ram it down your throat either way. So, you know, we're kind of buying into that, even though they're, you know, it's not in place right now. They're pushing stuff on us.
Yeah, you said abstinence, and you're going to hear people talk about this. Maybe even some Christians will say that doesn't work. You know, abstinence doesn't work. We just got to teach our kids to be smarter. I believe, according to Scripture, that's false. I think we can teach our children abstinence, and they can learn because we teach them the cause and effect. That's what it was. You had said yesterday, who would get an abortion if they could see it? What would you, as a pastor, and not even as a pastor, as a female, right, helping these women? You were bringing this up about images and stuff like that. Can you just expound on that a little bit, like what that would look like?
It's so important, these organizations like CareNet, because the reason they try to get people that are young ladies that are pregnant into them is because they will do an ultrasound and they will show them the actual baby. When you see that you are carrying a baby, a living human being, you will not abort it. I mean, think about this, Massey. Think about how we are with pets.
Yeah.
Dogs and cats. We're so protective of our pets, but we're going to let a child go down the drain, down the toilet? I mean, there's no way we would do it. That's why, I mean, and I just read something this morning too. I didn't write it down, but it said something basically like when people go through this type of trauma and they get connected with the church, they have like a 90% chance of just being okay. You know, they bounce back quickly. They have the support that they need. Like I said, we have the classes and things for them to heal.
Right.
And that's what needs to happen. I mean, churches need to offer that. We have to be the church. What is the church? The hands and feet of Jesus. What would he do?
That's exactly right.
He would speak to the woman. He would be kind and he would say, go and sin no more.
That's right.
So,
amen. That's the response we need, though. And not be afraid to say that, because that's not traumatizing. That's actually growth. That's help. That's sin brought you to death. Don't do the sin again to bring you back to death. That's love. We think, most people will think rebuking sinners, saying don't sin anymore, is wrong and bad and it's hurtful. It's really not. So I'm going to kind of round it out here. Our stance at the church especially is we're telling them this is the issue. Get informed. You've sent this email out to many pastors. What's been the response like? Legit. Let's talk about it, you know?
Very tiny.
Yeah.
Just a stipend. Very tiny. I'm not hearing things like this. I get involved as much as I can in government. And this is what I see, Massey. I see traction. But I don't see traction on this with the church or the pastors at all. I don't know churches in my county that I can align with.
Right.
I could name a few churches within the Treasure Coast, several counties that might speak about this. I'm very excited and proud of the Catholic Church. They've got these Vote No on 4 signs out. They're doing some things.
Yeah.
You know that on Wednesday evening, October 2nd at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
We'll be doing State Senator Erin Grau will be speaking on this. She is championing
At
this
Revive Church.
At Revive Church, right on 95 south of Canner, south of Canner. But we must do these events to inform. It will be very informative. It'll be a live Q&A, so we can get our questions answered. If people don't know, we want them at least to vote informed.
That's right. So if you're going to vote for it, and this event, she actually said the event now, but I wanted to repeat it. We're having an event at Revive Church. It's October 2nd, 7 p.m. In the sanctuary, the main sanctuary. We're having who is she? I'm sorry.
State Senator Erin Grau.
Erin Grau. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at that. I remembered it and then I forgot.
So many names.
I know. My bad. So you want to be a part of that event, and one of the reasons is, again, it's information. You make the decision yourself once you've been informed. But again, too, I want to say this with all my heart. You stand before God with everything you do. What you say, what you do, in my opinion, I don't care if you like this or not, how you vote as well. Because now what we're saying is we can let the state determine when life begins or ends, and that is disgusting.
It's disgusting.
It's literally turning the state into God, and that's demonic. I don't serve another God except God.
That's right.
So we have to take a stand as pastors, as leaders, but not just pastors, lay clergy, just lay people. We need to go out there on the streets and warn people and inform people, look, this is a real issue. This is a real issue. I don't want babies to die on our watch anymore. We thought Roe v. Wade overturned. Let's get it back to the states, which I don't even agree with that. I don't think the state should have a hand in that. But still, it was overturned. We're like, okay, we can stop this mess. Now they're doing it behind the back door and calling it, what are they calling this bill? It's like something really cheesy.
Something about don't let the government make, I don't know, but it's about not letting the government
get in your business.
Get in your health.
Yeah, get in your health or something like that.
Everything. Yeah, it's disguised with the
right. And I'll say this: the left or whatever, they're really at a really weird point in their lives where they're telling you vaccines for everyone, but women can choose. They have an identity crisis to no end. So this is what's happening right now. The left is really attacking Christian values, Christian ethic, and I dare say Christian. I'm going to challenge you on this. Can you vote for those things that destroy the Word of God? I don't think you can. So this is where we got to take a stand. Again, October 2nd at Revive Church, 7 p.m. You want to be there. We're going to talk about Amendment 4, and it's just going to be an important night for us to get together as believers. And I pray non-believers go. I pray the community comes.
Yes.
So that they can have their voice heard too, and we can refute that, or we can answer them, or we can do all these things so that they can be informed as well. So look in this camera right here, Pastor Jan. And we always, when we have guests, we want to say, like, how do we leave? Like, leave our guests and our viewers with a word of encouragement. How, if it was from you to say about this or about Christianity, about the vote coming up in November, about, states issues, what can you leave our viewers to say, man, keep fighting in the fight?
Well, just think about if this was you, who would be standing for you? We are standing for these children. So be the voice that you would want to be for you. The ones deciding this life for other people are the ones that already have it. So be the voice.
I love that. Dang. Well, you heard it from here, folks. Guys, thank you again for tuning in to theselfevidenttruth.com. Self-Evident Podcast is here because of you guys. So we thank you for all your support, your encouragement. Come out October 2nd. You've got to be there. Bring your friends. Bring your pastors. I'm telling you.
Yes.
If your pastor sees it, you're passionate. Some of them may disregard you, but I think a lot of them are waiting for their congregants to say, okay, what do you want me to do? Bring your pastor over there. This is a open community event. It's not a Revive Church event necessarily. We're just hosting it at Revive to have the community come out. So you want to go there. Again, Revive Church is right off of 95 south of Canner here in Stuart, Florida. So October 2nd, 7 p.m., parking and all that stuff's available. It's great. And you want to be there. And we'll that night probably have places to register to vote. So we'll have a lot of that stuff.
Sure. Yeah, and we'll have information.
We'll have information, all that stuff, so you can take with your friends, your family, all that stuff. So again, God bless you guys. Thanks so much, Pastor Jan, for coming. You're awesome.
Thank you.
And we love you guys. We will see you next week.